It's official. This is the last time we're ever talking about this guy. Ever.
I feel so personally attacked here. I'm taking all of this personally. I'm real upset.
Oh, God.
I think this was like totally irresponsible and dangerous, and
totally.
I'm sick of it.
Okay.
I've had it. You know what I've had? It.
Hi, Jillian Benzavali.
Hi, Patrick Hines.
Oh, fam, before we get to it, just a reminder, come see us on tour. Look, the tickets are selling out really fast. We're doing Class Action Park.
Yeah.
Who doesn't want to see that live, girl?
The man in the ball in the ball.
The man in the ball in the ball. We're going to talk about that whirly thing that they gave the kids $100 to try and then they lost all their teeth.
Right, because no one called a physicist or any kind of engineer or anything of that nature.
Come on, you guys. We're coming to Chicago, Boston, Seattle, and Los Angeles. Tickets are selling really fast. The other thing, come see us at Obsessed Fest.
Yes.
Columbus, Ohio. It's September 30th to October 2nd. It's going to be a weekend full of live shows and meet and greets, karaoke.
Yeah.
You tell them about your idea that we're going to do.
Oh, I'm going to host a sing-along where you just get to like scream All Too Well Taylor's version, the 10-minute version.
It's like we all just like sit in a room and say, if you don't want to do karaoke, you do this because like you're singing with everybody, not like alone on a stage.
And it's songs that like maybe other people don't want to hear,
right.
like 30 minutes of Taylor sing-alongs, and I'll be there for you. So we'll do a sing-along like before karaoke, and then we'll do karaoke.
Listen, we're bringing in people from outside the network, the people that you love. More announcements on all of that soon. Get all your tickets at obsessedfest.com. We're playing Broadway on April 11th.
Oh, we got a lot going on.
I mean, that day is coming faster and faster.
I mean, every day it gets closer.
That's a weird phenomenon, but true.
It's the truest thing I've ever said. I'm terrified.
And that's it. We've got a lot going on. You can get all the info at truecrimeobsessed.com. Anything else, girl?
Did you say the Patreon? We're doing fun stuff on the Patreon.
My goodness. Join us on the Patreon, you guys. Over 300 full ad-free bonus episodes to download and binge right this freaking second.
Right this freaking second.
We're wrapping up Chippendales, you guys. Chippendales is all those naked, greasy, horny men.
Yeah. Also, the women they're horny for horny. They're just trying to one-up each other with their humping.
How did you know my AOL Instant Messenger name?
Because I'm a witch.
All right, girl, what are we talking about today?
All right, I'm going to do this a couple times. I already told you I'm not talking in this whole voice the whole time, okay?
Yes.
We're doing Keep Sweet.
It's
called Keep Sweet.
It's called Keep Sweet. I fucking hate it.
Discovery Plus. I hate everything about it. It's irresponsible. It's dangerous. It's 3 documentaries in one.
It really is.
One of those stories is interesting.
Right.
The other, I'm just being like gaslit, and they're apologizing for Warren Jeffs the whole time. I'm not a fan.
We were always taught we were special. We got to come to this special place, and we were going to build like a heaven on earth here.
We had joyful lives. We were safe and we were happy.
And that's when everything really started to change.
We were taught everybody was our enemy. And then it was Warren Jeffs that did it. We had to pull all the children out of public school, sending men away. There's not anything about this community that Warren Jeffs left intact.
It opens on this, like, really kind of hot guy in a wheelchair.
Terrell Musler.
He's so great. I love this guy.
Yeah.
And he's the first one to tell us that, like, look, growing up FLDS, can you tell the people what FLDS is?
So LDS is Latter-day Saints. FLDS is the fundamentalist Latter-day Saints. So they do the fundamentalist version of what Joseph Smith said, and that usually almost always involves polygamy.
And that's really the only major difference in the philosophy, it seems.
Yeah, but it leads to them wanting nothing to do with the rest of the world and the rest of the population.
And you know what? That's fine with me.
Honestly, at this point, when you don't believe a rape happened when there's DNA evidence, I cannot help you. You go away. Go to Zion or this utopia or whatever. But Terrell, it's like Short Creek, and that's the compound, right? That's where all the polygamists were. Terrell is telling us it's our own heaven on earth, and it was a utopia, and everyone was equal. And I'm like, no, they weren't.
No, they weren't. And like, that's the idea that these people are sold. Like, we're going to build this utopia for God where everybody is treated equally, except the women are going to be subjugated. The 12-year-old girls are going to marry the older men. We're going to kick out the 14-year-old boys when they get to be like looking at the girls because the women aren't allowed to have jobs. They have to stay home. They have to do their hair like it's the fucking 1840. We get a lookbook from Little House on the goddamn Prairie.
They call it the Joy Book. It's really bad. It's like where men can look and see like, I want to marry that 12-year-old.
No,
they call it the Joy Book.
They all have hair to the floor, and I know that's not their fault. None of the men are here, by the way.
Nope.
The only people we meet are the men who have left and the women who are still suffering.
Yeah.
So good job. Good job, everybody.
Yay! lot of women here, and immediately you're like, oh, she's still in the cult, or oh no, she's out of the cult.
You can tell by the Little House on the Prairie hair.
Yeah.
Like, that's how you know.
Yeah.
And like, they're dresses that they made themselves, which is no shade. Like, I wouldn't do great on Project Runway either, but oh my God.
Yeah, again, if you apologize for a rapist, it's really going to be hard for me to like give you props and give you your flowers for making a dress.
The thing that I want to say that is hard and that I don't want to get lost, and they try to say this a lot in the beginning, when you are raised here and you are cut off, you're not allowed to watch TV, you don't have the internet, they essentially banned books. I can't blame you for what you don't know, but when you are given the knowledge, when you are made aware of what's really happening, and you literally say, I'm not saying it didn't happen, it just didn't happen to me, so I'm fine with everything, that's my issue with these people.
Right, they don't want to believe it because it's hard to believe, but I'm so fucking sorry it happened.
Exactly.
Like, it's not like this is the first time this is being introduced to these people, because Terrell left, Shirley Draper, she left the cult.
I love Shirley.
There are people who have left, and I've been trying to help these people, and they don't want to hear it. So I don't have a lot of sympathy. I'm sorry.
This community was amazing. It was awesome. I mean, we could roam the hills, we could play in the creek. You know, the creek was my backyard.
It was plays and programs and dances and community celebrations. There were all these artistic expressions available to us.
Do you know what I don't want to hear?
What?
Them use the word crick.
The crick.
I don't like the word. Like, my husband's
people
dad
say
says
the word
crick. I know. Jack, I'm sorry. I hate it. I hate it so much.
And the closed caption said crick, too, so this isn't an accent.
I got a crick in my neck,
I have a crick
Jack.
in my neck, yeah.
I've got a creek in the backyard.
Yeah.
Okay?
Okay. All right. We're picking a lot of battles today, aren't we?
I have therapy at 5. That'll be fine.
Oh, well, perfect. Okay, good. I was gonna say we have 2 records this
I know.
week. Can we like?
Oh God, Esther, one of the people who is still in, is explaining.
Fucking boo, Esther. I'm not sorry.
But she's explaining the difference between like regular Mormons and the FLDS.
We believe in the Book of Mormon, but we believe in the original teachings of Joseph Smith. The biggest drift between the LDS and the fundamentalists, the FLDS, is obviously going to be plural marriage, which is the term we like to use.
We believe in what Joseph Smith really meant, essentially. Which is just that, like, you can have multiple wives and all of the lawlessness.
Well, can the wives have a say, or do you believe that they have to be 12 years old?
I know. I agree.
I don't get it. Like, I mean, I get it, but I don't get it at all. But the point is also, which is super culty, was to isolate these people. So Esther and Norma and Lori, boo, 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 barf, 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 they see it as like proud, like we don't have to rely on the outside world. But no. That's what Warren Jeffs wanted, to isolate you, to make you feel like you couldn't go out there.
Right. And we got to talk about the trust.
Yes.
So the whole thing about this land is that nobody owned anything. Everything was owned collectively in a trust.
Right. It's the United Effort Plan, the UEP.
And so the United Effort Plan was everybody was going to donate all the land so that nobody could take it and we could divide it equally, because that was the dream. We were all equal.
So everybody at the time that were building their homes had the understanding that they were consecrating, were the words that we used, these materials to the trust.
We didn't own anything out here. Everything was God's and the trusts. Everybody here believed the same thing.
You know, we believed this was how God wanted us to live.
It's all for us and the greater good and community, and no one was thinking that everything was going to go to shit.
How they weren't thinking that far ahead, I don't know.
I don't understand.
I do not know.
But like everything was God's and the trusts, and it's like more isolation, and there's a lot of stuff. Can we talk about Shirley and her daughter
love
Angel?
Shirley. So Shirley is here. You can tell she got out. She's got a daughter named Angel who's 18. She's got cerebral palsy. She has an older son named John who has autism. And then she says,
my 2 middle sons are brilliant geniuses who walk on water and have always taken really good care of us.
And walk on water and always take good care of us. Shirley. I'm on Team Shirley.
I love Team Shirley. I am also on Team Shirley.
And so here's another enraging thing. So we see home videos with Shirley, and it's the lower third is like Shirley's husband and sister wife's wedding. And now all of the men in all of the footage, video, photos, whatever, all of their faces are blurred out and no one else's is. And I'm like, why are we protecting them?
I know.
Why are we not? Are you telling me that you seriously asked all 20 wives for their permission? Why are we protecting the men? Unblur his fucking face.
I know. What
are you doing?
It is a great example of a really bad blur job.
It's a horrible blur job. Maybe the worst I've ever had. And I've had some bad ones.
Oh, God.
And if there's a reason for it, like, fine, school me on it. But it's a really bad look when it's 20 women and a lot of them are teenagers.
Yes.
And, like, no one else's face is blurred except him.
No, I agree. And we get Shirley's backstory. She said,
I got the call that the prophet was going to place me. And so it was a Monday morning. I did not know who I was going to marry. And we were married at 5:00 that night. First time I'd ever kissed anyone.
And by 5:00 that evening, she was married. It was the first time she ever kissed someone.
he is carrying her over the threshold and she's not into it.
Well, she even said, she was like, well, I wasn't horrified.
Right.
Like, I knew him. He wasn't like that unfortunate.
She knew him from choir.
And she goes, it's not like I was 15 or something. No, but you could have been,
You could have been. And other people were,
And
Shirley.
other people
Yeah,
were. And
yeah.
she knows that now because she's out of it now. But like, sometimes like the things they say are like their lives are just, they don't make any sense
This
to me.
is where I have the question, what's up with the hair to the floor? Do they have to have their hair that long?
Yeah.
Like, it's a rule.
Yes.
The swoops and the French braids and the...
I mean, cutting it is like you can't cut, no, you can't cut your hair.
Is that right?
Yeah.
The things you know about these people.
Under the Banner of Heaven.
Yes.
And HBO's Big Love. Yeah. And side googing.
Yeah,
on it. Like when you watch Fights with The View,
Uh-huh.
I'm like,
oh, yeah.
fundamentalist.
God,
Mormon
Hasselbeck in that
shit.
Rosie O'Donnell fight dress. She looked good. What am I going to say? She looked good.
I'm on like the ex-Mormon message boards reading about people's experiences.
But this is where we learned that Sherry's younger sister married Sherry's husband. And she's like, that was not uncommon. And I kind of loved it because
I benefited greatly from plural marriage, from having my sister, who I already loved, in my home, taking care of my children after my little girl was born, I think 9 months later. And I ended up spending 3 years in the hospital with her. And my younger sister was home loving and caring for my children how I wanted them to be taken care of. That was a huge benefit.
So easy peasy, right? Like trauma
and,
schmama.
And if we're being honest, I don't think Shirley was like pining for her husband.
No, she was played. I mean, right? But there's a moment where Shirley gets a little defensive. She's like, everyone should lighten up on the polygamy, okay?
Right.
No one should have the right to define a culture, which is like, now hold on a second.
Yeah. Yes.
Polygamy in a different situation, if you're a polyamorous relationship, that is totally different than you waking up on a Monday morning and saying by 5:00 you're going to be married and you don't know who it is and this is your first kiss and you might be 15 years old when it happens.
100 million%.
So polygamy, it's different than like polyamory.
And I'm sorry, like this was before I knew that I was going to love Shirley because she is like...
I don't think it's fair that the hegemonic gaze of mainstream gets to define a culture, any culture. But when it comes to populations that are, created to be deviants, then that is absolutely accepted, and that's the way it is. We put them all in a basket, and this is how we understand them.
That's why mainstream culture hated us. And I said, hey, girl, tell me the FDLS take on gay marriage.
Oh, yeah.
Because that actually happened to us. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
we actually were defined literally as deviants. We could have been arrested for our behavior. And we weren't out there marrying 14-year-olds. You know what I mean?
Right. But people were just saying that you were. Or that would be the next step.
And also, A, that's true. And B, don't tell me that you were all about live and let live when if Steve and I showed up in that town, I don't think that we would have been welcomed with I don't think the bakery's making our wedding cake.
No, again, when it's convenient. It's live and let live when it's convenient. It's like, it's equal when it's convenient.
100%.
And that's definitively not what equality is when it's convenient.
Exactly.
It does not compute.
No.
Make it make sense.
And then I have, oh shit, the music changed. It's ominous, girl. What's happening?
Because this bitch fucking Warren Jeffs is here. And because all he did was record himself, and the stuff he says is like absolutely chilling.
I don't understand. It's like the Nixon tapes. You know you're evil. Why are you recording yourself?
Because what he's doing is brainwashing them. And he's scaring them. So he's talking about the 1953 raid.
I can only take so much of that this week.
Thank you.
That's what I'm saying. I can do any more of it.
Like, and I don't think you, dear listener, I don't think you want it as much as you say you do.
I mean, it's so bad. We've evolved as a podcast, don't you think?
I do.
Just a little bit.
I do.
Know what I mean?
But he does, you know what? All cult members, not all cult members, a few cult, sorry, not all cult members.
Sarah Edmonds is going to be real mad. Be careful.
And I meant cult leaders, actually. But they do a lot of like extra enunciating, and they use the S's. Remember in Wild Wild Country? He just kept using shh at the end of everything, whether it had an S or not.
Yeah.
Jeff does this too.
We come today to the subject of the 1953 raid. It's very important that you young people see how the prophets and other good people have defended you, protected you, how the government of the United States persecuted this priesthood through the years. The 1953 raid was made to destroy our families.
Warren Jeffs is like the kind of person that even the fact that he's a pedophile, rapist, fucking like bamboozler, all of that aside, if I was like found myself at a bar with him and he was normal, I would not be able to have a conversation.
I couldn't do it.
The fuck is going on with like the whistling with your teeth?
Yeah, he's like, it's very important. And he keeps saying, you young people. He's like, you young people have to see the prophets and other good people have defended and protected you. Yeah. So what he's saying is this big 1953 raid, and everyone's like, oh God, the fucking raid.
And here we go again. It's like we've heard about this raid before, and basically like the state of Arizona came in and was like, none of y'all are paying taxes. I think a lot of you are marrying the kids here. No one is safe. We're taking the kids and we're blowing this whole thing up.
There were 36 men and 86 wives.
Yes.
Math on that is quite interesting. And now Arizona fucked up big time. Everyone was wrong here.
Yeah,
everybody.
I absolutely agree.
So the plan was to like free the women and children, but the women wanted to stay.
Because
the children wanted to stay.
When you're in a cult like this, you're either born into it and it's all you know, or you're there by choice. I was thinking about the women in Waco. Remember that building was on fire and one of the firemen pushed a lady out the second floor window and she ran back in?
Yeah.
That's what all these people did.
The 1953 raid was always talked about when I was growing up because both of my parents were taken away as children.
My own father was 8 years old and was dragged out from under a bed by a uniformed police officer whose intent was to separate from his parents and adopt him out.
And so when you come in the middle of the night with whatever like riot gear you had in 1953 in Arizona and dragging 8-year-olds who are hiding under the bed, like Arizona, this is not the fucking way.
Like this is not how you fucking do it. And like it's so traumatizing for the children. It's all bad.
It's all bad. And what happened is that it just made them be more tight-knit.
Yes.
It made them not trust the government. It totally backfired. And not a single woman was in the room in 1958 or 3 or whatever it was in Arizona being like, can we all take a deep breath?
Like Jan, guys.
Hey,
guys.
Hold on. Can we hold on for 1 minute? I'm sorry. Yeah, no, I'm sorry. It's me, Jan.
What do you want, sweet tits?
No, I have your water and your beer and everything. I'm so dumb. This is the stupidest thing. Maybe we shouldn't rip the kids when they're screaming, crying, and clinging to their mom. Like in the middle of the night.
What is this woman doing in here?
No, I'm so sorry. Your pot roast is almost ready. I'm sorry. Can you help me carry it? My weak arms. I can't do it. I was just wondering if maybe we shouldn't traumatize a whole group of people.
I have your coffee and your beer and everything.
I have everything. The pot roast is almost ready. Ding! Oh, there it is. Okay, I'm sorry. My weak arms, you understand.
No, I mean, I understand that, like, the intention was good. You want to save these fucking people, but, like, you're not understanding the psychology.
And you know who's not getting any of it? Fucking Norma.
I hate Norma the most.
Norma's like...
The state of Arizona wanted to erase us. The state of Utah wanted to erase us. We are an annoyance to them, a big thorn in their side. Why? I don't know, other than that we're different.
She's like, I don't know why, we're just different. And I'm like, you are endangering children.
Yeah, and Norma can't see past any of it. She's a total Warren Jeffs apologist.
Oh my God.
She thinks everything is fine. People made up stories, even though you know she knows it's all true.
Yeah, Norma and Esther and Lori on my list.
I need to read the text I sent you at 3:49 a.m. this morning. I said, good morning. I'm sorry for the early text, but I have no love or grace in my heart for Norma. I would like to watch her get hit by a bus.
And I responded in 30 seconds saying,
I hate all of them in all caps. RIP our iTunes reviews because I am all caps angry today. Oh, thank God. Now we're in Los Angeles. Like, we get a 2-minute reprieve for, like, the real world.
We're with Glenn, who, look, I have notes for him. Glenn is a TV producer, showrunner, and lover of life. Glenn, please, we don't have time for this. Lover of life.
He's the executive producer of this thing that we're watching, but somehow made himself a talking head.
Yeah. So in 2007, Glenn reads an article about the Lost Boys of FLDS. And this is fucking bananas.
I did not know. I guess I knew a little bit about this story, but I forgot.
There was this amazing article on the phenomenon of the lost boys from the FLDS about how Warren Jeffs, who was the prophet, he basically told these families to kick their boys out, send them away at 14, 15, 16 years old, so the older men could have some of the younger women as wives. So they didn't want the competition with the younger men. I was fascinated with this.
Like, exile them, like make their families kick them out of the house to live on the fucking street.
Because they were, and he said the reason was they were competition for the older men. And that was just like, no.
All we want to do is like play Xbox. What are you talking about?
Xbox.
I know. I'm trying to think of like what 14-year-old boys would be doing. And I'm like, collecting rocks, I guess?
Yes.
Right.
You know how much footage we have of people collecting rocks?
I know.
In this?
But I'm like, they're not competition. What are you talking? And Warren, just you get to decide who marries who.
Right.
So like, why you got to kick out these boys? Like, and these families that are like, yes, Warren Jeffs, whatever you say, throwing their kids out on the street, never to come home.
I mean, they would drive them miles away, drop them off on the side of the road, and leave them there. This is true. This is horrible. And this wasn't a handful of times. They did this by the hundreds.
It's unfucking believable.
And they don't know anything. They're 14, they're 15. They've never been able to read a book or socialize with anyone else. They don't know anything but this crazy life, and now they're just out on the street.
And my thing about this is that Glenn says he was reading an article about this and he became fascinated by it. And I said, that to me is like known dumping grounds. If we know enough about this custom of this happening that somebody wrote an article about it, can we stop it?
Right. Between the rape and the exiling and I don't understand.
Like,
I don't get it.
And I don't
get
understand that like part of the writing of the article process isn't letting the authorities know that 14-year-old boys are being thrown out on the street. What on earth?
What is happening? What is
Why
happening?
Why do we have to be responsible for fixing everything?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
I don't know. But Glenn reads the article. The next morning, he's on a plane.
Yes.
He bought a ticket. He's heading to Short Creek.
Now, this is Glenn doing the good work. This all shifts for me at some point.
1,000%. But Glenn brings along Sam Brower. Sam, he's a PI working for the U.S. government. He wrote the book Prophets Pray that the documentary is based on.
Right.
Yeah, we covered here on this very podcast about 100 years ago, give or take. Right. But Sam Brower's like the guy.
Who says I've been alive forever?
He knows everything about this.
We met Sam Brower, a private investigator working with the government. And I remember Sam telling me that they're aware you're here and be careful.
This guy right here is one of the spies.
He's a spy for who?
When I heard that, I was like, okay, this is fucked up.
Sam says to Glenn, they know you're here, be careful. Holy shit.
And it's like fences. They're all super paranoid.
Yes.
They go to sleep every night assuming that the 1953 raid is going to happen again.
Yeah, and it didn't used to be like that. Like all the people who got away, like Terrell, who I love, is like when I was a kid, there were no fences here. When Warren Jeffs took over, the paranoia went through the fucking
roof. Through the roof.
And now there's cameras everywhere. There's the fence around the community. These like fucking children see anybody who's not one of their own and they run screaming from them. The traumatization of these fucking children.
Yeah. And to be clear, the fences aren't like chain link fences. They are cement fences completely blocking in so you can't see anything.
And Glenn is saying like...
And I remembered we were followed. We had rocks thrown at us and people were spitting on the car. The interesting thing about this town that Sam taught me is that, you know, if you get in trouble here, you can't call the police because they're all FLDS. You just got to get out.
You can't call the cops. There are no cops.
Right. So it's a public place, but it's all FLDS.
Right. And Glenn says there were people in town who wanted to help him. Like some girl says, meet me in a parking lot.
Out of the clear blue sky. We wouldn't be here if not for her.
No, I know.
She's like, Glenn, meet me in the parking lot off the compound. And she just hands him a bunch of tapes of Warren Jeffs speaking.
How did she get them?
She probably stole them.
Oh,
like a
God,
badass.
I love her.
And now we have to see footage of 12-foot-tall Warren Jeffs singing. Why are they always singing? I know it sounds weird coming from two people who very much enjoy musicals, but can we cool it with the singing?
I desire here today to sincerely point the way
His singing voice is also terrifying.
It's just his speaking voice.
I know, and I was like, somebody loves this. You know, like somebody watched this and was like, oh, like cried because they love it.
It was Norma.
Totally.
And I hate Norma. And Esther and Lori. Lori, Lori.
You know what? Lori at least really suffers. You know what I mean?
Don't you defend Lori.
No, I'm not a Lori apologist. I'm just saying, like, all of these women that are terrible are also suffering greatly.
I don't care.
I know.
I think a lot of other people are suffering,
I
care more about them.
I know.
So in 1998, Warren's dad, Rulin Jeffs, has a stroke and Warren takes over. And that's when everything changes because there were things where Rulin was like a hard ass, but he was like, things were suggested. And now Warren made them mandatory. And so there are rules against dancing.
Literally, you're not allowed to have fun.
And then they started really becoming a lot more strict on things like language and whether or not we could dance.
Evil powers gain control over us when we are having fun, when we relax our prayers.
You can't say the word fun. You have to say the word enjoyment.
I know.
They're not mentioning how he killed all the pets, but he killed all the pets.
He did?
He went around and killed all the pets.
What?
Yep. You can only wear certain colors, certain hairstyles, no TV, no radio, certainly no internet.
This is where we get the lookbook for the hair design. And this is my question. Is the hair like that because Warren Jeffs thinks it's hot? Does he just like love hair like that?
I don't know. I don't. I mean, maybe were there like paintings of Joseph Smith time and they all had that hairdo and so now they have to have it forever and ever?
It's so fucking gross.
But then he starts editing the books.
Yeah, so he's like editing children's books to color in long sleeves.
But like they're coloring books and he's like taking that away from us too. We can't just fucking color. So instead of having short sleeves, they would also just color the actual arms so it looked like they were wearing long sleeves. And then he's like, it's such a hassle. I'm just going to ban all the books.
Oh, and I'm also going to close all the schools.
Well, then, because the kids were going to public school, which I was like, they were what?
I know.
I couldn't believe that they were allowed to be exposed to the outside world. But even then, he's like, nah, fuck it. Now they all have to be educated here. And that's when Shirley has had it.
Oh, yeah. Shirley has had it with the school thing really set her over the edge. But also, she's like seeing the cracks in the system.
One of the things that growing up in this community was pretty sacrosanct was the family. That was one of the big changes that Warren started to make. Just taking women away from a man that he was trying to punish. And he would give women to a man that he was rewarding, destroying family units that way.
You ladies belong to the prophet, as far as the Lord placing you where you belong.
So barfy.
He's using girls and women as currency.
Exactly.
He'd take a wife away from a man as punishment. He'd give a girl to a man as a reward. He was splitting kids. Just like if you like got out of line, he'd take your kids away from you.
And send me away. Like I would be banished from the fucking compound or whatever.
Yeah.
And she's thinking like, I want to get out of here, but I've never had a job. I don't have any income. 2 of my kids are special needs. And where's her husband?
It's exactly what Warren Jeffs wanted though. Like you don't have any income. You can't leave.
Right. So Shirley says that for 4 years, she's to keep her mouth shut. And she's like, they were the darkest 4 years of my life. She's like watching her kids get indoctrinated. There's like home videos of her husband saying weird, gross, culty church stuff to the kids and making them repeat it.
Like instead of cheese to take a picture, they say keep sweet.
It's so gross.
And like keep sweet is not like what it means is that like fall in line and be submissive and listen to Warren Jeffs or the prophet or the or the man in the room. Like it's not a nice thing to say. Remember that? We'll get back to it later.
Shirley is saying that like it's been 4 years of her keeping her mouth shut, but like people are starting to notice.
For 4 years, letting my children become indoctrinated. My husband was saying all the right things and doing all the right things, and I was not. It was only after, they were coming to my home to ask me if I believed in Warren Jeffs. I thought I've really got to make this move and take my children and leave.
Can you? Hi, Shirley.
Hi, Shirley.
Just wondering,
Quick
girl.
Quest. Your hair looks horrible, by the way.
I would have been here sooner, but it took me 19 hours to French braid this hornet's nest.
And make my own bread.
Totally.
And Shirley says, like, she has this beautiful moment that Angel, her daughter with special needs, like, saved her life.
Yes.
Because as horrible as the first 3 years of Angel's life were to be in a hospital, Shirley was able to get space.
And she was away. She didn't have to go to church every weekend. Her sister was raising her kids, and she's like, was really able to see what was happening.
Right.
Do they have sewing machines?
Yes.
Okay, so they don't have to hand make those horrible dresses.
No.
Okay.
I don't think so. No.
Where do they get the fabric?
Some horrible heathen store.
Once a year they go to like a Joann's or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know.
You think they ever go to Mood?
Thank you, Mood. Then We're with Norma, who still calls him Uncle Warren fucking barf. Norma's like, all he wanted to do was protect us from some real yucky stuff. That horrible music giving young people ideas.
I know.
And she's like, the only thing, Norma. She says the only thing that Warren Jeffs did that got people a little bit agitated.
That's it. He only did one thing, you guys.
One thing is that he said, hello, friends, we're going to do things a little bit differently from everybody else. And I'm like, what? And then I'm like, Norma, are you serious? And Norma continues because she's trying to give me a fucking heart attack. She's like, and in order to do that, he had to exile people like my own father. Her own father was exiled. His gravestone.
I know. Just died in exile.
May 24th, 2004. This woman says of her own father, he should have known better. She's like, I completely agree with Uncle Warren. And he really screwed up that dad of mine. Can you imagine?
I'm going to throw up.
I'm going to throw up. And she's like, you know what?
Oh, God.
I loved people being exiled. I felt so safe. Norma is there's no coming back.
I know.
And she's like, you know what my truth is? And I'm like, tell me, Norma.
Please,
just
Norma.
lay it on me.
Uncle Warren was just like his father. They were just genuine, concerned, loving people. I don't know what else to say. I mean, that's my truth, and I'll hold to it. But people may say what they believe.
I texted you that I wanted to watch her get hit by a bus. Not even just get hit by a bus. I wanted to watch. I had so much hate in my heart this morning.
Hate in my heart for Norma. And you know what? Good. I know. It's nice to not feel alone in that for once. Norma says, well, my truth is that Warren Jeffs and his father were wonderful, kind, loving people. But Norma, it's not the truth. Like, it's categorically not the truth. There's evidence. We'll get back to it. But like for people, this is not like, well, this is my experience and this is my truth. No,
right.
No.
And what she is saying is she knows what happened to other people. She's just saying it didn't happen to her.
I don't care.
I know. No. What I'm saying is that makes her worse.
Right.
You know what I mean? That makes you an accomplice.
Right. And especially when you have people like Terrell.
Yes.
And Shirley and all these people and so many more people who we'll meet later saying like, Norma, would you wake up a little bit?
I know.
And she's just refusing to see the truth.
And like the grace that I just can't have for her is that like this is all she knows. She is making the choices that Shirley didn't make. She's like, I know I can't leave. I know I can't go anywhere else. And in her head, she's just justifying everything to make her existence okay. And I don't have any grace for that.
Right, because there are so many resources now today.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like she just doesn't want to. And like I understand that it's all you know and it could be hard to leave that, but like what are you leaving? It's a barren wasteland. Like go and have a thriving life.
I know. Norma does not want that.
Well, she doesn't want it.
She doesn't want
that.
Like
sometimes people really do enjoy being miserable.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Oh, I know like 10 of those people. Half of the week I'm that person.
I wasn't going to say it. But then we meet, like, we hear from Terrell, who actually stood up to Warren Jeffs.
I love it.
It's possible.
Yeah, because Terrell was explaining what it's like to be a man, and he was like, all the men would go and they basically had to kiss the ring. And he said that, like, I wouldn't do it. I would not pledge my allegiance to Warren Jeffs.
I'll swear my allegiance to God, to something else, but not a man. And that's what all the books said. In fact, they say if you do that, you're stupid. I mean, you see the results of history every time. And he got really pissed. He says, I'm your only way to salvation. I says, well, that sure shoots the shit out of the Jesus Christ theory I was raised my whole life to hear. And that pissed him off even more.
So he goes and gets in it. He gets his shit. He gets in his truck and he leaves. And he lives in his truck for 3 months.
Right. And Warren Jeffs, like, they get into a screaming match. Yeah. Warren Jeffs, who's already fucking 20 feet tall, is on his tippy toes, like, hovering over Terrell and screaming at him.
Yeah.
Like, what?
I know. I mean, and he lived in his truck for 3 months. You know what I have to ask?
What?
Where did he poop?
Oh, in the woods. Or in the desert.
What?
Yeah.
Like, he would get out of what?
Of
you
course.
said that with such authority. Like, not a gas station or a Starbucks?
I mean, maybe. But he's on the run.
Just the one.
Actually, no, they don't even care where he is, so hopefully.
So now we're back with Glenn. Glenn's the filmmaker. He's the reason we're all here. So Glenn, we learned, was, after reading the article, was like hanging out with the Lost Boys within 48 hours. He had to meet them. And I said, Glenn is a doer. I like Glenn. This is the sound of me eating my words.
Oh, I did not know what sound that was at first. So once you hear it in the playback, you'll be like, ooh, that was a confusing sound I chose.
This is the sound of me slurping my words.
You know, like...
You've seen me eat. You know it's not elegant.
For not a visual medium. We got to adjust.
Glenn is telling us that he gets taken to this apartment where we meet Ethan Fisher. And I guess Ethan Fisher was the first of the boys to be excommunicated for just being 14.
So your father listened to Warren and decided he didn't want to leave, so he asked you to leave. And he was probably one of the most lost boys there.
When I first left, I didn't have anything to live for, really. Kind of sucks because you don't have family, real family to go to. Hang out with, stuff like that. Starting to miss that a lot.
And so he has this apartment where he takes in these lost boys and cooks for them and helps them adjust. All of these kids seem remarkably emotionally unscathed from having just been fucking exiled from their families for no reason.
But doesn't that tell you everything?
Yeah.
That the minute they're away from this cult, then trauma is real, 1000%. But there's something to be said for they're doing it.
Yeah, and Ethan is making a dinner that doesn't look delicious.
It doesn't. He's the leader of them.
Yeah. He's just stirring loose meat. And I'm like, are you putting that? Is that sloppy Joe makings, Ethan?
But I guess
what you making,
it's
girl?
Easy and cheap for a house full of boys, right?
I know. These poor fucking kids, and all of them have been told that they just they weren't religious enough, or they weren't working hard, they weren't trying
enough. They weren't
submissive,
and
I mean, it's fucking crazy. The parents, what level of indoctrinated do you have to be to drive your kid 20 miles out and kick them out of your car?
Yeah, and
I can't imagine it.
Never talk to them ever again.
So right now, Glenn is going on a tour with the Lost Boys. They pile into a minivan.
Right, to give them a tour of the community they've been banished from.
I know. Weird. The boys are no hard feelings, mom and dad.
Because it does feel it's just not a lot of people anymore.
Yeah.
And I guess they feel we can take them all in a minivan full of teenagers.
Yeah, so they're with this kid, Leroy, and they go to his house. And Leroy's I got kicked out really fast, so I want to go pick up some sneakers.
Oh my God.
And Glenn is saying that they get to Leroy's house, and Glenn is do you want to take the mic off? He's like, no, you can hear whatever.
It is heartbreaking.
This is so fucking heartbreaking. Leroy opens the front door to his house.
Sylvie! Hey!
You hear the joy in his brothers and sisters. Leroy's home, Leroy's home. I start to cry hearing this. And at one point, one of his younger brothers said, are you going to stay?
Why won't you stay over here? Because I can.
He said, no, I can't. No, I can't.
And they're just asking, can you stay? Can you stay? And he just says, I can't.
Yeah. And he turns around and leaves, and we see these little kids watching him leave from the window. Leroy is 16 years old.
16? And where are you what?
How is this happening?
What's the plan?
How is this happening? And for what? There are no other men on the compound, or they're hiding from the cameras, and Glenn is allowing it and not telling us that that's what's happening.
Exactly.
What's going on here?
It's fucking crazy. And so, we're back with Norma. Every time I went, oh, fucking Norma.
Because she's after we're with all the Lost Boys, and Leroy's I can't to his siblings. Norma's we are kind, loving, amazing people. Are there things we don't tolerate? You betcha. We don't tolerate immorality or deceit. And when we find someone among us that's doing that, we're asked to leave. And I'm Norma, sweetheart, you realize that Warren Jeffs is both immoral and deceitful, right?
Yes.
Do you see that?
She's so fucking high and mighty. And no, she doesn't see it. Norma is probably smart and only sees the things that make it okay for her to do what she's doing.
When it's convenient.
Yes, 100%.
That's the theme, right? They also don't like when people go public, how Alyssa Wall went on CNN to talk about how Warren Jeffs forced her to marry her own cousin when she was 14. And Norma's that's just rude, honestly.
Yeah. She's that's actually, it's very hurtful.
Yeah. Ask Alyssa how hurtful it is. Now, here come the lawsuits. We have court cases. We have subpoenas.
Because what happens is when Warren Jeffs went to prison, all of a sudden it was open season for people who had left to sort of try to reclaim their lives.
And so, but what happens is the same thing the 1953 raid. It's oh, see? Just like all the other prophets, he's being persecuted.
But then Terrell is the first one to be
You're doing the same stupid shit. You're pissing people off. You're breaking the law.
Right, you're doing illegal shit.
Exactly.
You're a bunch of fucking rapey creeps.
Exactly.
Of course. And so there was a time.
Are you going to talk about the FBI Most Wanted poster?
Yes.
This is bananas.
There was a time when Warren Jeffs was one of the top 3 most wanted people in the world. Ask me who the other 2 were.
Literally sandwiched between who?
Osama bin Laden and Whitey Bulger.
I forgot that Whitey Bulger was so hot.
Patrick.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Norma. They don't put like do-gooders who are misunderstood on the fucking most wanted list.
I'm sure that if you were to talk to her, she'd be, we don't trust authority. We don't recognize the government.
Remember the 1953 raid, Norma? Like, she still calls him Uncle Warren. Like, I know that I'm screaming into the void. I know you hear me. I know you understand. But Norma never will, and Lori never will, and Esther won't. And I can't handle it.
Norma literally is saying, like...
The day that Uncle Warren was arrested, it was like a very sinking feeling, extreme sadness. It's unbelievable. I mean, all these feelings are just coming up and through, and why would they do that to us? Why? What are they trying to do? He's done nothing wrong.
Why would they do this to us? We've done nothing wrong.
And she goes, he's done nothing wrong.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what am I watching? He raped children and he allowed others to rape children. Lori calls this circumstantial evidence. And I'm like, Lori, first of all, circumstantial evidence is evidence. Fuck off.
Yeah.
And second, there's DNA evidence. He's the father of a baby that a 14-year-old gave birth to. Fuck off.
And like we see, thank fucking God. Like Prophets Pray, I will never forgive for playing the sex tape of him having sex with a 12-year-old girl.
I know.
Thank God we didn't have to hear it, but we see like the wedding pictures of him with like the child's face blurred out, but they're kissing. Like
they're kissing.
It's so like it's all right there. It's just all right there.
And they're like, oh yeah, because they asked them like, Glenn is like, have you heard the stories? Like what have you heard? And
she asked Esther, yeah.
Esther's like,
I personally don't believe the stories. I've heard them. It's not that I haven't heard them. It's that I knew him, and they're not true to me.
To me.
First of all, the truth is the truth is the truth.
But the producer is you, because the producer's like, do you think they could be true to other people?
And Esther's like, you know what, honestly, now that we're here, I think people made up stories just to cause problems. Esther's
crazy.
The biggest problem in front of my face right now.
That's because like they're just repeating what their husbands are saying.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. So he gets life in prison plus 20 years. Fucking hooray. And like, honestly, how much longer do I have to listen to these brainwashed women defend this piece of shit?
I know.
It's getting to be, and I'm like, how much longer is it? Because they even say, like, I don't listen to what they say. I block it out. They are actively ignoring the truth. So you know how this documentary is about 3 different things?
Yes.
We're back to one of the things. It's the trust. So we're here with Judge Jeff Barlow, and he explains the whole thing about this land. So it all came from their religion. Everyone was working together, united.
Yes.
Right? United effort, plan, or whatever to build this community. So a boy or a man would go to the leaders and say, I want to build a house.
Yes.
And the leaders would say, okay, great. Here's this plot of land. They'd give him permission, but he would never own it. And everybody knew that.
And that was meant to make it so that everybody was equal. Like you could get the materials to build your house, and maybe you had to spend money. We don't really get all the details.
Yeah.
But you build a $500,000 house, it's not yours.
There's no deed. There's no paperwork. Everyone's like fucking awesome. It belongs to God now.
Yes.
Cool.
And that's how they're able to kick you out when they don't like you anymore, by the way.
And so that's what Warren Jeffs is doing. So he starts kicking families out of the homes they built with their own hands.
Yes.
And he's doing this secretly. I mean, he is, but he isn't, right? Because then he starts liquidating the homes. So what happens is after he was arrested, all of the people he kicked out of their homes start coming back.
Yes.
Because they want their homes back, even though they didn't actually own the things that they built. It's still like their home. They built it. They lived in it for however many years.
Right.
By the hundreds, by the thousands.
And we learn that that's part of the provision because the state of Arizona steps in.
The state sees that he's liquidating all these assets without anybody else knowing. That was the whole reason it was set up, is to protect the assets so that nobody could ever liquidate them off and sell the people's land.
And so they're inviting people back. They're like, if you ever lived here, you now have the right to come back and like claim a home.
Warren Jeffs didn't get or realize or understand, because I hate him, that when he changed it to a charitable trust, then now the state of Utah is in charge. And he didn't know that. And Shirley's like, that was his fatal flaw.
Shirley loves telling that part of the story.
Right, because like someone didn't read the fine print. Someone thought he was indestructible and he was invincible, and he's not.
And this is like the last third of this movie is about, they call them apostates, the people who've been either kicked out or left on their own, coming back to live among the FLDS that are still there and like still in the cult. Right. And they have to kind of like live side by side now.
Right. So now we meet Christine.
Yes.
Christine Marie.
And Christine, everyone is saying to Glenn, the filmmaker, you got to meet Christine. You got to meet Christine. We're with Christine in her garden where she's picking apricots. That's how she's going to decide to pronounce it.
I know. It's apricots, right? I never think I'm saying anything right all the time. But it's apricots, right?
I hate this woman on site. She picks one off the vine. She's eating it. She refers to it as like the Garden of fucking Eden. I'm like, I don't know who you are or why you're here, but I know I don't like you.
So she lives in Short Creek. She moved there from Vegas.
And she, like, we're going to learn eventually that she is Mormon, but she's not FLDS. Like, how did she find this place.
So she's sort of become a spokesperson for FLDS people who sort of want their rights. They don't have any in this situation.
But the reason she is that is because she and her husband are living on top of the FLDS people just randomly, and she's seeing...
Then we saw an eviction of elderly people with oxygen tanks, handicapped people in a wheelchair, people crying, just mobbed around this house, and I took photos.
Who in the world evicts a grandmother with an oxygen tank? I'm sorry, I don't care what the legal thing is. You don't do that to a grandmother who's an American citizen.
So what's happening is the state is evicting these people, but the state is also saying, like, it doesn't have to be like this, girl. All you gotta do is sign this deed of sale or whatever. For $100, you can stay here. You just have to abide by the rules and pay your taxes. And these people won't do it, so they're evicting them.
Right. And so now Christine and her husband, Tolga, are like posting all these photos of the evictions on Facebook.
Because they don't understand what's happening.
Right. They're like, they're being attacked.
Yeah.
And Christine reads a comment of it. And I'm like, Christine, I don't think you know what you just read. No. Because they're me and you screaming, why aren't you calling on the government to help with all the child abuse?
Exactly.
Like, you have to do your... and this is where I feel like I'm crazy. Like, I feel like I'm missing something huge. I must be.
Right.
Like, what is everyone all up in arms about? They're just asking you to, like, live in a fucking society, pay your property taxes, and sign a very standard housing agreement.
Right.
We're not signing any occupancy agreement. I will not. To me, that is like telling everybody, the whole world, and them, I agree with you, and I don't agree with my convictions and my religion. So why don't I just sign away my religion?
They'd rather lose $100 million in property than violate their religion.
What does one have to do with the other?
They just don't want the government involved. And the government is just saying, I'm sorry, but like, you live in America. This is how it works here.
And now Norma, because it's all about convenience, is loving that Christine is an outsider.
Exactly.
She's so happy that there's an outsider here to have her back. And I'm like, Norma, it's always about what's convenient for your stupid narrative. But meanwhile, Shirley's like, isn't it great? Because they're like, the state is getting it, and then they're demolishing everything.
Because
and there's Shirley with the hard hat on, like, yahoo!
Shirley is our Shirley who's Angel's mother, the young girl with cerebral palsy.
She got the hell out of there.
She got the hell out. Terrell, the other one in the wheelchair, he's the one that got out of there. Yep. They're both back now. And they're like on the board trying to do the right thing. And they're also trying to help the FLDS people who kicked them out.
Right.
They're trying to set up social services. They're trying to set up food banks.
I mean, all of this footage of Glenn driving around, there were like abandoned cars, and it really was like a wasteland. They want to fix it up and make it an actual town and an actual community and give them all these resources. And like, it used to be that the church appointed people to city council, but Shirley comes in and she's like, you guys, there's this thing called voting. You should register. And Terrell's like, you don't understand how powerful local government is.
Yes.
Like, really
They're
trying to
so
teach
excited.
people.
Yeah.
And Terrell's like, I got to get in on this. The local voting and the government and like.
And what's happening here is that like the apostates, as they call them, who had been kicked out and have come back, they're coming back in big numbers.
Right.
And they're sort of taking over the town. They elect their own mayor, who's like a democratically elected mayor. They win.
Yep.
It's like a reverse Welcome to Leith when the Nazis came in and took over. Like the good people are here, they're taking over. And like the FLDS that are still there are feeling like they're being pushed out. They're just not agreeing to live in a normal society.
Right. And like pay your taxes and just sign. Again, so standard, this paperwork. It's like the most standard thing.
For $100, you get to stay in your house. It's crazy.
And no one will bother you anymore.
Right.
And then you can believe in whatever. You can always believe in whatever, Norma. I promise you, no one's taking your hairdo away from you.
So in the end, we're back with filmmaker Glenn, who is like desperately trying to convince us that all points of view here are valid. He describes himself as the only filmmaker who's ever been able to show both sides of this thing, the FLDS and the non-FLDS. And you shouldn't be normalizing it, Glenn.
No.
That's the thing. He's talking about how much he loves the FLDS kids. Of course you do. They are sweet and adorable. They are in danger.
Yeah, this is a disaster, Glenn.
And you are enabling it.
Yes.
Like, you need to hear that. I hope you hear this. This is not okay what you did.
Because what he says is...
I think the world needs to hear these stories and really understand what's happening here, not just in a soundbite and not just in an agenda. This town, everybody has their story, and that's their truth. And everybody just needs to accept that.
and he looks directly in my face and he says, this is their truth and everyone just needs to accept that. And I'm not accepting it, Glenn, and you shouldn't fucking ask me to. How dare you?
What would you do if you met a family of people that loved living in a burning building? Would you say like their point of view is valid and the kids who have no choice like should be stuck in this burning fucking building?
Truth?
No.
Like, no, it's not. Like sometimes the truth is the truth is the truth. And what they're like, I don't have time for like my experience and my truth.
No.
That's not what that is, Glenn.
No, and like it's a very weird, disappointing ending because in the end, Lori, who's like the saddest one of them all, she's just so sad. They end up having to like leave Short Creek and move like 2 hours away to like live in peace or whatever. We see their kids, they're still in the cult. It's so fucking sad. And like it ends with them looking at the camera singing a song.
None of the promises that the Lord has placed on the place have changed because God doesn't lie and he doesn't change his promises. It's just kind of hard to go there right now.
They're just singing. It's more singing.
It's more singing, and like it's the dreariest way to end a documentary that they're trying to make it sound happy.
Like Discovery Plus, why did you allow this?
I don't know.
I don't understand like how or why this got made. I think it's super dangerous and irresponsible, and the singing.
I know. And Discovery Plus, I love you. You guys do great work.
Yes, I was shocked.
I know.
I was shocked by how completely irresponsible this is.
The 1-2 punch of this and Relentless, I gotta say.
I've never felt so like, what am I missing?
I know.
Am I watching the same thing? Thank God we always watch the same thing.
It's
Even
true.
if we have different points of view, I just feel like she'll get it. I'll be safe in the recording studio at least.
Oh my God, we did, what's it called?
It's called Keep Sweet, and I'm not doing the voice.
No. Fam, so many things. Come see us on tour.
Yes.
Chicago, Boston, Seattle, Los Angeles. We're doing Class Action Park.
Yes.
You know you want to see all the jokes, all the new stuff. Our live shows are insane. If you've never been to one, get to one of our live shows. Come by yourself. You're going to make new friends.
Oh,
It's the
totally
best.
make new friends.
Speaking of coming by yourself, come to Obsessed Fest.
Yes.
September 30th to October 2nd, Columbus, Ohio. Tickets are really, really selling out, everybody. It's an Obsessed Network family weekend. We're doing live shows and karaoke and panels. We're bringing in all of our friends that aren't on Obsessed Fest that you want to meet and talk to and get pictures with. They're all coming.
It's going to be it's just going to be a party weekend. So
It
get
really
ready.
is going to be a
Get that
bananas
liquid
party
IV
weekend.
ready to go.
Totally. Also, join us on the Patreon, fam. Over 300 episodes to download and binge right this second.
Yes.
What are we doing next, girl?
So Dateline did this thing where they did a double episode of Kristen Smart and the Murdaugh murders.
Yes.
So we're just going to do that, but they're just going to be 2 episodes.
Of course.
So we're doing, because they are not related at all. It's like, thanks for watching part 1. They're going to split it up eventually. Dateline is crazy. I don't know what they do with putting things online or not. So we're doing the Kristen Smart episode of Dateline that came out recently.
If you guys don't know the Kristen Smart case, there's a podcast called Your Own Backyard. It's all about this like 16-year cold case of this
And the
girl who
guy's
went
in it.
missing. The podcasters in it, they solve it. It's crazy. If you're from California, you definitely know about it. It's a crazy, crazy case.
Yeah.
So stay tuned for the trailer for that.
Yeah.
Our funny and hilarious outtakes.
Ragey outtakes this week. My throat hurts.
I know, mine does too already.
All right, I need some water.
All right, we love you guys.
We love you.
Bye.
Bye.
Kristen Smart, just 19 years old when she vanished.
The police are kind of like, well, she'll be back.
It's every father or mother's worst fear.
The case was not solved that first year or the next.
You're missing a big piece of the puzzle.
Through the years, Kristen's presence lingered in the poster on the highway, on the pathways through the red brick dorms where she was last seen.
You've only got so many leads to follow.
And then someone discovered a way to shake some old evidence loose.
I started asking, do you remember the Kristen Smart story?
There was no stopping what happened next.
I'm a fan of you.
I'm a fan of you. I'm a fan of doing this, but I'm mad at this documentary.
Steve the other day goes, you should try to eat more neatly. I was like, babe, it's been like 20 years.
Yeah, I don't know.
You know what I mean?
You can't change me. Love me. Love the way I eat.
Exactly.
They're getting spit on.
We see footage of these people leaning out windows, throwing things, and then screaming like, get the license plate.
I got it. And then someone's like, don't worry, Nance, I got it.